Draft. Presented by ABC Action News and the Tampa Bay Times.
It's the $25 million question everybody is asking. Who will the Buccaneers select as the overall number one pick in this year's NFL Draft? The answer coming a little past 8 p.m. next Thursday night in Chicago. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us for this special edition of the Plank First Draft. We're streaming live right now on ABC Action News mobile app and online on abcactionnews.com and tampabay.com. And for the next hour, we will discuss and debate what we believe the Buccaneers will do and what perhaps we think they should do. A roundtable discussion, if you will, with four well-versed and knowledgeable writers from the Tampa Bay Times. Joining us right now to my far right, sports writer Matt Baker, who has covered Jameis Winston extensively, both on and off the field. Sitting next to him, right here in the nice coat, nicely done, Tom Jones, who is never shy to bring it. And then to my left here is sports writer Rick Stroud, who covered the Buccaneers and the NFL, and also traveled to Hawaii to do some background on one Marcus Mariota. And down the road is Greg Auman, who, as you know, joined us each week as we stream the Plank live on abcactionnews.com. And we also invite you and your opinions through the evening. We have two different platforms for you to go to tweet us on hashtag @theplank on Twitter, and tweet right now, hashtag Mariota or hashtag Winston. We've opened up the chat on the websites, and we also have a poll at abcactionnews.com. Go answer it, and we will reveal the results at the end of the show. Okay, we begin in depth now with two quarterbacks, the two biggest names on the floor, Winston and Mariota. I guess, first of all, guys, are we in agreement that Winston is the guy? Would you say we are? Everybody's in agreement?
Yeah.
Are there any trepidations?
Anybody here that doesn't?
No, I mean, unless something happens here in the next few days, which is always a possibility when you're talking about Jameis Winston, of course. But no, barring anything unforeseen in the next couple of days and barring the Bucs discovering anything new, yeah, Jameis Winston's the guy. For
Okay, sure. The question then is if you're the Buccaneers and you're making this decision, what would preclude you from taking Jameis Winston? Is there anything out there right now that you could see that you, in your mind, would say Jameis Winston is not the guy? Greg?
I mean, I think they've done their research. I think they've talked to enough people where they feel comfortable with everything they know to this point. So with less than a week left, it would take something that they haven't accounted for, something they haven't uncovered already, which still could happen, but it seems very unlikely.
How about you, Rick?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything at this point unless something were to arise. But, they're going to wait until the final moment when they hand the card in, because you never know what team is out there that might knock you over. Now, trading first overall picks is rarely done, and it's very dangerous, because there's always a good side and a bad side to it. But no, I think there's a lot of run right now, a lot of talk about Marcus Mariota. I think there's a lot of interest in him. But I think most of the NFL assumes that Jameis Winston's going to go first, and there's a reason for that, is that the Buccaneers have done their homework. They're okay with his off-field situation, and they think he's the best quarterback.
I think there were moments maybe right after the combine and certainly after their pro days where I think people tried to get some momentum going for Marcus Mariota because they were so concerned about Jameis Winston's character that they thought, hey, if Mariota's even close, maybe Mariota's worth taking because of his character is beyond reproach. But I don't think anybody ever got there. I don't think anybody, particularly with the Bucs, ever got to the point where they felt Mariota was good enough as a football player to say, you know what, he can bridge the gap between the character issues, and that way we'll feel more comfortable with Mariota. I just think Jameis Winston is head and shoulders above him as a football player that I don't see anything changing there.
Matt?
Yeah, there's no reason why the Bucs would say the things that they've said over the last few months about how comfortable they are with him. That's the word Lovie Smith has used a couple times. We're comfortable with him. We've done a lot of research. A lot was an understatement, according to Jason Light the other day. There's no reason why they would say all that stuff and risk the backlash PR-wise, upset fans, because this is a polarizing pick, whatever they do. There's no reason they do that if they weren't comfortable, again, the Lovie Smith word, with Jameis. So barring an arrest, an injury, an alien abduction in the next 6 hours, 28 minutes, he's got to be the guy.
To that point, I just wanted to say that when we got to the Combine back in February, Lovie Smith, before he even went to the podium, sat down with us. He had never spoken with Jameis during this process yet. And he said, in essence, look, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the sexual assault charges. This guy has been exonerated. That's the word he used. They also said that at that point they had a leader in the clubhouse. Well, you would figure it has to be Winston. They knew more about him. He's at Florida State. They don't know Oregon. They don't know the offense. There's a lot of questions about the football side of Marcus Mariota. Then you get to the owners' meeting. They still have a leader in the clubhouse. Now they made a decision. They know who they're going to pick today. They've known it for a while. And if nothing, you can't imagine that Mariota, to your point, has gained that much traction. Although I will say this, that in the NFL, people think Mariota is going to be really successful. Right. And I think the sort of the narrative on him is that he's going to be great. He can do all the things in any offense. It's just a question of how fast he'll do them.
Right. Do you ever get the sense through all this that the Bucs put just enough out there to gauge what the public reaction might be locally?
I think they started to do that, yes.
I think so, too.
I think they wanted to see what the reaction would be because they had their mind made up, and they wanted to make sure that if they did go ahead with this, they had plan B in a marketing sense in order to try and smooth it over to make sure that when Winston did
Rick,
come
you
in.
know these guys better than anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, did you ever get a sense that
I
they
didn't
would have
think
backed off?
I didn't think it was a trial balloon.
Yeah.
I really didn't. No, I think that they knew that this was a very good likelihood from the beginning. Because remember, in the NFL, it's really about tape. You know, and character is a big thing, but there's a risk reward. You know, there's a sliding scale. That's what the NFL's always been. I mean, we've seen that at every position. So if you have a great talent, you know, you do need to make sure that you can live with the off the field part. But like I said, once they decided that the things Jameis Winston did, and we're going to talk about him tonight, was mostly immaturity. Once you can remove the very serious charge or the very serious accusation, now it's about football. And I think the film work was done long before they got to the combine.
Do any of you guys, I get the sense, and I'm just holding back, and I'm still reserved on Jameis Winston, and it's all off the field. I just think he's a smooth talker. I don't believe half of what he says. And that's what the concern that I have. But how come I seem to be the only one that has that
You're
type
not.
of a concern?
No, you're not.
Well, the Buccaneers certainly don't care.
Right.
I mean, they just say, listen, we're here to win football games. The hell what he says, right?
No, and I think to some extent what you think matters, what the public matters. But for me, what showed me how much the Bucs are confident in this decision was when they brought him in for a visit. Because not only you could bring him in and not let anybody know about it, you can pull that off. They were very public about it. Put pictures, put video up on the website, sent an email out to season ticket holders with links to that. This is about selling him to the public.
And they did that with Mariota too.
And they did.
Fair.
Right. But I think a lot of this is getting the public comfortable with the idea of him being the number one pick long before he was the number one pick to soften that blow.
Now, if you want to talk about whether you can believe what he says, I think this week was a good example with that, with the Publix thing that came up again. I don't think the Bucs care one way or the other what really happened. But the fact is a year ago this time when he was cited for shoplifting, he said it was a mistake made in my youthful ignorance was the phrase that he used. So he took responsibility. And then on the ESPN special the other night, he said that there was some sort of hookup at Publix. So why it seems to be a discrepancy. I suppose there's a scenario where he's telling the truth both ways, but that seems to be a discrepancy. And both times, I mean, really with this time, he's kind of putting the responsibility away from himself at a time where the Bucs are determining whether he's the answer to that $25 million.
Well, to that point, Matt, though, I think with that situation, every general manager heard that story that he told Jim Harbaugh. That's what he told them. Right. Now, let's think about that instance because obviously one seems more truthful than the other, one story than the other. But if he goes in there and he says, look, I had the hookup from day one, okay? Because Florida State, I think, is a little complicit in this as well. They came out and said, no, you know what? I heard a couple stories. He went to another counter and forgot to pay. It's an isolated incident. Bad on Jameis, take your punishment. Jameis took it, I think, for Florida State. Not to forgive what he did, but I think that if he comes out and says, yeah, man, now it's free shellfish you. You know what I'm saying? It's like now now you got people looking at your program. So in some respects, I think, and I know what Publix has said. There's some managers really nervous. It's, not me. But I think it just seems, that to me that resonated more with me as honesty than what was said back in the day.
What Jameis has said, though, and I'm not dismissing the BB gun incident and the crab legs and standing on the table and yelling but I am dismissing it because I think most general managers don't care about that stuff. What it really comes down to is what does he have to say about the allegations? And that's something that he really hasn't been very public about, Matt. I mean, you've done most of the stories.
Yeah, Matt, you've done a lot of research on him. You've been around him. Why don't you let's talk about let's run down what this guy has done and what you think.
Sure. The big thing to look at, if you want to dismiss the BB guns and whatever, that's fine. But
I think my point is I think general managers are. I don't think they care.
And that's fine. I understand that. But if you look at the totality of it all, it's 5 police run-ins, if I'm not mistaken, in a year and a half. And at some point, when do you learn your mistake? The thing I can't wrap my head around is that in November of 2012, he was, he said arrested, but he was handcuffed for shooting BB guns on campus. Then a day or two later, he gets in trouble for shooting BB guns in his apartment. Okay, is that a stupid, immature thing that Alabama kids do? Yeah, probably. But at a certain point, you have to question, you have to learn your lesson. Then, of course, there is the big elephant in the room, the December 2012 rape allegation. He hasn't said a ton about that. The only thing he's really said was a statement that he gave to the Florida State University's Code of Conduct hearing, and he didn't answer really any questions about that. He answered a couple minor follow-ups, but there's still a lot we don't know about that.
He did give a rather detailed account, his account of what happened that night, though, and it was rather graphic, too.
It was, but if you want to get detailed, her side would tell you that the most graphic and most violent part of the incident happened in a bathroom where all he says is, we went to the bathroom and finished. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that are kind of not touched in there, and at some point, I do expect him to go to court to have to testify about this and be examined or cross-examined.
You mean in a civil suit?
I mean in a civil suit, absolutely correct.
Which is still pending.
I'm going to ask you guys this: is Jameis Winston that good a talent that the Buccaneers would take a guy that has this type of laundry and not be concerned about it?
Clearly.
I mean,
again, it's not.
He's that good. Do you guys think he's that good?
I think I don't know that he's so good that he's better than anybody else, and that's the point.
But
he's
that's,
better.
there's my point.
He's better than the entire class of 2015 according to their evaluations.
Right.
And he also happens to play a position that they desperately need. And Rick talked about it a minute ago. It's a sliding scale. Would they prefer that Marcus Mariota, with his character, was the better talent? I'm sure they would. But the fact of the matter is he's not as good as Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston's talent, yeah. The bottom line is, his talent makes up for any issues that they're comfortable with.
I also think, and you can't, listen, I'm never going to know what happened with that accusation. And that's what it was. And it's not to dismiss any of that behavior or any other behavior that that may be coming down the line. The fact of the matter is that as an organization, if you get to a place where you don't think that that's going to be a recurring problem or that there is a problem or that he was complicit or guilty in any way since he wasn't charged, when you remove that, and I know we got a laundry list of dumb things like BB guns and standing on chairs. Look, those aren't great decisions, but they think it's maturity. They don't think he's a bad guy. You ask the Bucs, is this a bad guy? Are we talking about a bad guy? No, he's not a bad guy. He did stupid things.
Right.
But this other thing is something entirely different.
You think it's all just simple immaturity, or do you think that perhaps there is that sense of entitlement that's involved in there? I think, listen, I'll tell you guys, we did a lot of dumb things when I went to college too, but I don't remember anybody ever standing up in the middle of a lunchroom and yell out what he yelled out.
Well, especially with what he's accused of.
Right.
And especially at the time, FSU was trying to interview him about it.
And that the students wouldn't be cheering that out.
And the standing on the table thing, for me, what that showed was a lack of awareness, a lack of understanding the position he's in, the fact that at this point he's essentially gotten away with everything he's done. He's still in position to be leading a team for a national championship, and he's still standing on top of a table saying those kind of things. So that's what concerned me is, have you learned from your mistakes? But if I'm the Buccaneers right now, and if I'm talking to as many people as they have, I don't think I can find out with any degree of authority what happened. I think what I have to try and find out is how likely is anything like that to happen again? I think that's what they need to find out.
You do your psychological tests. There's all kinds of vetting that's been done behind the scenes. I mean, the days of having your security guy go to your campus and ask the coaches, hey, is this a good guy? Those are over. I mean, they're contracting with investigators that the colleges don't even know that they work for the Buccaneers. I mean, this thing goes back to social media when they're freshmen. There is so much information that they gather on these players that you're making a $25 million investment.
But you asked Tom if this was a lack of maturity. I actually just think it's in some ways a lack of intelligence. Not, he's a book smart kid, and I think he's a football smart kid. Socially, I don't think he's very smart. And maybe Greg hit the word. I don't think he's aware. I just don't think he's aware that the spotlight's on him, that he can't do the things. Is that immaturity? Perhaps. I just think he needs.
How about entitlement?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think he thinks
And
he
is
can
that-
just do it,
but
and everybody's going to laugh at it
Is
because it's
that
him.
is that unique to Jameis Winston?
I don't-
Or could we pick a college quarterback, Johnny Manziel, some others, and even in good college? Ben Roethlisberger's in the NFL.
Right.
I was going to say, what about NFL quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, just any professional or college athlete, you're going to find a number of people who, you put these guys on a pedestal at some point, and then the next thing you know, they feel like they're constantly getting. And what's going to be interesting is once you remove the cocoon of Florida State, okay, now you're in the real world,
Right.
And you don't have statements and no access to the players, and it's going to be different for Jameis
Although
Winston.
I almost wonder if you get him in an NFL setting with guys that are older than him and adults and people that can mentor him a little bit, if getting out of Florida State and getting out of Tallahassee might be a good thing.
What they're banking on.
I think so.
Well, I think, too, that Florida State is culpable to the point, as some other universities are, that because of where he was and what they allowed him to do, he just pressed the envelope on it. And I think if there are some universities and some coaches that put the foot down and say, you can't do this, period. But I don't think FSU did a very good job of that. You agree?
Well, I mean, you spent a lot of time up there, Matt. I mean,
Well, I want to change subject. Quickly get back to what you and what Rick and Greg were saying a minute ago, just about how you don't think you'll ever know what happened and that the December 2012 allegation.
I don't
whatever it was.
personally think I will know.
And I just want to say, too, I've looked into this every day for, I think it's 17 months now. I've read probably 3,000 pages of documents, and that's not an exaggeration.
Mm-hmm.
And I resigned myself a long time ago to the fact that I will never know what happened.
Right.
I don't think I will. You look at the state attorney who decided not to press charges against him. He said that, but he also said, I think something happened that wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
You look at when FSU held its hearing on that this past December, they decided not to charge him with breaking the school's code of conduct policy, but also said, it's a 50-50 thing. Neither one of your stories is more believable than the others. Tie goes to Jameis.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think the Bucs, if they have the information I have, we're probably going to come to the same conclusion.
But to your point, Tom, no, I don't think FSU did him any favors there. Now, part of it was I think Jimbo Fisher looked at him, and Jameis Winston did a lot of good things.
26-1, man.
26-1, won him a national championship, got him a new contract, and made him one of the richest coaches in the country, and got him and sort of brought some recruits in. I'm sure he turned that football program around, and we'll see where it goes without Jameis Winston. But certainly, Jimbo, I think, certainly benefited from Jameis, and I think probably gave him. But is that unusual to college football? I mean, I'm sure Kevin Sumlin went out of his way to make life great for Johnny Manziel.
Urban Meyer's no angel.
Let's go to.
Who did he recruit?
No kidding.
Right?
Well, let's look at USC.
Right. Yeah.
USC and Pete Carroll. And
He left. He got out before the hangman.
Before Reggie
This is
Bush.
what these coaches do.
This is what they do.
All right, we're going to continue this discussion here. We're going to take a short break. We want to let you know that remember to hit us up on Twitter, #ThePlank, and what you do think about who the pick's going to be. Tweet now, #Mariota or #Winston. You can also take our poll on our website at abcactionnews.com, and we will be right back.